All right, guys, so let's go over this Unit 8 study guide. So number 1 says, what quadrilateral has exactly one pair of parallel sides? So it says exactly because we do not want to know which quadrilateral has parallel sides in general. We want to know which quadrilateral only has one pair of parallel sides, and in that case the answer would be a trapezoid. Trapezoid is the only quadrilateral that has only one pair of parallel sides, so the answer is D. All right, number 2, write the characteristics of a rhombus, and the only rule or the...
Miss Hines, please contact the main office. Miss Hines, please call the main office.
Seriously? Oh my gosh. Okay. So the only characteristic of a rhombus is that it has to have 4 equal sides. Okay? That is the only rule for a rhombus, or the only characteristic of a rhombus is that it has 4 equal sides. So that is the answer for number 2. Number 3, which quadrilaterals always have 4 right angles? So the key here is that they wrote which quadrilaterals, so we know that there's more than one. And if we think about which ones have 4 right angles, we should know automatically that there are more than one. The answer to this would be a square. A square has to have, a square has to have 4 right angles, and also a rectangle. The rectangle has to have 4 right angles as well. So there's 2 answers for that one, square and rectangle. And number 4, write the characteristics of an isosceles triangle. And the rule for an isosceles triangle is that only two sides are the same length. If none of the sides are the same length, they're all different lengths, that means it's scalene. And if all sides are the same length, it is equilateral. So the isosceles triangle is the category of triangle that only 2 sides are the same length. Okay, so let's go on to the second page. Here we have true or false. An acute triangle has all angles less than, that's what this sign is, less than 90 degrees. And that is true. An obtuse angle has 2 sides of equal length. Obtuse is not a name for the side length. The obtuse is the way you categorize a triangle based on its angles, so that is false. An obtuse triangle has nothing to do with the lengths of its sides. C, a right triangle has one 90-degree angle. That is true. That's why it's called a right triangle, because it has one right angle, which is a 90-degree angle. D, an isosceles triangle has one angle that is greater than 90 degrees. And again, isosceles triangle is, that's named based on its side lengths, not on its angles, so that is false. Okay, so E, a square is a special kind of rectangle. That is true because a square falls under the category of rectangles. Not all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. So this is true. F, a rhombus is a special kind of square. So that's saying that a rhombus falls under the category of squares. It's just a special kind of square, but that's false because not all rhombuses are squares. So that is definitely false. And G, a square can also be a rhombus. That is true. A square can be a rhombus because the only characteristic of a rhombus is that it has 4 equal sides. And a square can also be a rhombus because it has 4 equal sides. So there we have it. True, false, true, false, true, false, true. Okay, number 6. An obtuse triangle has one angle that is greater than 90 degrees. And I'm going to write greater with the sign for greater than 90 degrees. Okay, and acute triangle has one, or actually all angles are less than 90 degrees. I'm going to cross off that 1. All angles in the acute triangle are less than 90 degrees. An isosceles triangle has 2 sides of the same length. A right triangle has one 90-degree angle. And a scalene triangle has all three sides are different lengths. And there's another way, I mean, you could word that in different ways. You could say that no sides are the same length, or you could say that all three sides are different lengths. Either way, you're saying the same thing. So if you have it worded that way, then that's fine. All right, number 11, what two shapes always have four sides that are the same length? So this would be first a rhombus. A rhombus, the only rule for a rhombus is that it has four sides that are the same length. And the square has to have four sides of the same length, but also four 90-degree angles. So those two shapes have four sides of the same length. All right, number 12, now we have dimensions given to us for squares. Okay, you can tell that they're squares because the length and the width are the same number. So that tells us that it's a square. And we have to find the area and the perimeter. So I have already done these calculations, so I'm just going to fill it in here. 45, so to find area, we're just multiplying these together, the length and the width. So 45 times 45 is 2,025 feet squared. 138 by 138 is 19,044 feet squared. 155 by 155 is 24,025 feet squared. And 225 by 225 is 50,625 feet squared. Okay, and now perimeter, all you really have to do is take the length of one side and multiply it by 4, because that's one side and there's four sides in a square. So 45 times 4 is 180 feet, so that is the perimeter. 138 inches multiplied by four sides is 552 feet. 155 inches multiplied by four sides is 620 feet. And 225 inches multiplied by four sides is 900 feet. Okay, so that is that chart completely filled out. All right, let's go on to the third page. Okay, here we have a table, and we are given original dimensions, and then we have to come up with the dimensions if all sides are doubled, if all sides are tripled, and then we're given the dimensions if all sides are quadrupled or are multiplied by 4. Okay, so let's first fill in these blanks. If all sides are multiplied by 2, we have the first side 3 times 2 is 6, and 4 times 2 is 8. And then in this row, we are multiplying by 3, so 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 3 is 12. So these are our missing dimensions. And now we have to use these dimensions in order to come up with the perimeter and area. So the perimeter of the original rectangle would be 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4. You're adding all the sides together. And in that case, you get 14 centimeters. Okay, and let's go through and do the perimeter let's do the whole column of perimeter. Now, if you remember, the rule for perimeter is if you're doubling all the sides, you're doubling the original perimeter. If you're tripling all the sides, you're tripling the perimeter. And if you're quadrupling all the sides, you are quadrupling the perimeter. So now you just have to take that original perimeter and double it, triple it, quadruple it. So 14 doubled is 28 centimeters. And then you can also check your work. 6 plus 6 is 12, 8 plus 8 is 16, and if you add those together, you get 28, which is adding all the sides together. So you can just use this pattern. 14 times 3 is 42 centimeters, and then 14 times 4 is 56 centimeters. So again, we're using that pattern that we already know is there in order to fill out the rest of the chart. Now for area, this is very simple. 3 times 4 obviously is 12 centimeters squared. And then if you remember the pattern we used, which should be in your notes, for area, anytime you double all the sides, you're multiplying the area by 4. When you triple all the sides, you're multiplying the area by 9. And when you quadruple all the sides, you are multiplying the area by 16. So you take that original area and you're multiplying by 4. Then you're taking the original, multiply it by 9. take the original and multiply it by 16. So that's the pattern for area. So 12 times 4 is 48 centimeters squared. 12 times 9 is 108 centimeters squared. And 12 times 16 is 192 centimeters squared. Okay, and then you can go and check it too. I mean, 12 times 16, if you actually do the area using multiplication, 12 times 16 is 192. 9 times 12 is 108, and 6 times 8 is 48. So you can do it either way. You can use the pattern, or you could actually just multiply together like you already know how to find area. But that is what the chart should look like all filled out. Make sure that you label correctly. And then let's move on down to number 14, 15, and 16, which are all going to be answered using this chart up here. So for number 14, it says, how does the area of the rectangle change when the dimensions of the rectangle are doubled? The area of the new rectangle is blank times the area of the original. So let's look at the area when a rectangle is doubled. What happens to the original area? The original area is 12, and what happened when we doubled all the sides? It was 4 times the original rectangle, okay? So again, they're saying if you double all the sides, or all the sides times 2, what happens to the area from the original one? Well, we're going from 12 to 48. That's multiplied by 4, so it's 4 times the area of the original rectangle. So we're going to use that same idea to go on to 15. How does the area of the rectangle change when the dimensions of a rectangle are tripled? So now we're looking at the tripled row. Okay, we've gone from the original to now tripled. What is the difference? Well, it has been multiplied by 9. The area of the new rectangle is 9 times the area of the original rectangle. And then for 16, we're just going to the row that is quadrupled, or multiplied by 4. So what happens? The area of the new rectangle, which is 192, is blank times the area of the original rectangle, which is 12. And we know that that answer is 16. So it's 16 times the area of the original rectangle. Okay, so you will see a problem like this on the test, so please make sure that you go over this page especially, and if you still aren't really understanding, you can go back, rewind this and watch it again, or you can ask me for help as well. Okay, so let's go on to the next page, actually the last page. So number 17, which 4 shapes, they're telling us how many answers there should be, which 4 shapes always have opposite sides parallel? First, let's look at quadrilateral. What's the rule for a quadrilateral? That it has 4 sides. Does it say anything about them having to be parallel? No. So that we know is not going to be the answer because they don't have to have any sides parallel at all. So quadrilateral is not going to be one of our choices. A rectangle, although parallel sides isn't specifically one of the rules, if the rules for a rectangle is that it has 4 right angles, it's always going to have parallel sides. So a rectangle is one of the answers. A rhombus, the rules for a rhombus is that it has 4 equal sides. Again, if all sides are the same length, you have to have opposite sides parallel. There's really no way possible to draw a rhombus with 4 equal sides that don't have parallel sides. You can try it if you want, but I'm telling you it's not going to work. Okay, a trapezoid, we know that the rule is that it has 1 side parallel. This question is saying always have opposite sides parallel, which tells us that both sides need to be parallel. So trapezoid is impossible. Now we have 2 left, which we can assume are both going to be correct answers since we already have 2 and we need 4 altogether. But let's just go through them anyway. Parallelogram, we know that the rule is that opposite sides are parallel, so that's definitely our 3rd choice. And then a square, we know the rules are 4 equal sides, 4 right angles. It's always going to have 2 parallel sides. So there we go, B, C, E, and F. All right, now let's move on to number 18. What is the same about a square and a rhombus? Well, the only thing they have in common is that they both have 4 equal sides. That's the only thing that they have in common. Okay, and so number 19 asks, what is the difference, or what is different about a square and a rhombus? And in this case, a square has to have 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. That's called a semicolon, so that's me continuing my thought. A square has 4 equal sides and 4 right angles, but a rhombus only needs 4 equal sides. Okay? So more differences than they have things in common. All right, and the last part is to complete the table. So all we're given are the dimensions if all sides are quadrupled. So really, in order to figure out the original dimensions, I just have to divide both of these by 4. Okay, so 24 divided by 4 is 6. 6 feet by 36 divided by 4 is 9 feet. So if you do that backwards, the originals are 6. 6 times 4 is 24. 9 times 4 is 36. So that would be all sides quadrupled. So now we can fill in the rest. All sides doubled would be 12 feet by 18 feet. And all sides tripled would be 18 feet by 27 feet. Okay, so now we're going to find the perimeter and the area. The perimeter is 30 feet. And if, again, you use the pattern that we know, double, triple, quadruple. So 30 doubled is 60 feet, 30 tripled is 90 feet, and 30 quadrupled is 120 feet. So that is the perimeter for each of the rectangles when doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. And then the area, 6 times 9 is 54 feet squared. And then when we double the sides, we are quadrupling the area. When we triple the sides, we are multiplying by 9. And when we quadruple the sides, we are multiplying by 16. So 54 times 4 is 216 feet squared. 54 times 9 is 486 feet squared. And 54 times 16 is 864 feet squared. And again, you can go through and actually multiply. 24 times 36 will give you the area. That is 864. 18 times 27 is 486, and 12 times 18 is 216. So again, you could do it either way. You can multiply the dimensions, or you can use the pattern that we have. All right, so that is the study guide, guys. Good luck on your test. You can go back and rewatch this, even just parts that you may be having a little bit of trouble with, and you can always ask me for help too, right? All right, good luck.